Humans have an ancient obsession with breathing life into dead matter. We tell stories about carving stone until it wakes up, hoping that if we construct something with enough detail, a mind will spark inside it. We update the myth over time. We trade the chisel for the electric charge and the sculptor for the mad scientist. But the core fascination remains exactly the same. For most of human history, processing power and a subjective internal experience were a package deal. If an entity could solve complex problems, react to danger, or communicate, we assumed there was a driver behind the wheel experiencing it all. Philosophers call this the problem of other minds. You have zero direct access to the private thoughts of your friends, your family, or your pets. You simply infer they feel things because they exhibit complex behavior, and they're made of the same biological material you are. Because we only had humans and animals to observe, we tied these two ideas together. We assumed that high-level intelligence was a secondary trait of being alive, but modern artificial intelligence breaks that connection. If we are processing machines made of cells, and the AI is a processing machine made of silicon, where exactly does the undeniable feeling of being alive actually come from? The philosopher David Chalmers named this the hard problem. You can map out every single neuron, synapse, and electrical voltage in a human brain, but no known equation explains how physical matter generates a private internal experience. Some thinkers bypass this mystery entirely. They subscribe to illusionism, arguing that the hard problem is a trick of our own perspective. To them, consciousness isn't an extra ingredient. It's simply a story a complex system generates to keep itself functioning. The philosopher Daniel Dennett championed this view, arguing that looking for a distinct feeling of life inside the brain is a misunderstanding of biology. Dennett argued that once the physical brain finishes its functional tasks, analyzing light, reacting to danger, balancing temperature, the mind emerges automatically. The physical function is the experience. Under strict illusionism, an AI that perfectly simulates human behavior has already achieved a mind. There is no hidden spark left to find. Neuroscientist Giulio Tononi takes a different path. Instead of dismissing consciousness as a story, he attempts to physically measure it. His framework is called Integrated Information Theory, or IIT. It proposes a strict mathematical metric for consciousness, represented by the Greek letter phi. According to IIT, a system is only conscious if the information inside it is deeply, irreducibly unified. The whole must be greater than the sum of its parts. High integration creates a high phi score, but digital networks operate differently. Modern AI relies on feed-forward designs, passing data through separate modules without the dense integration found in biological neurons. Under IIT, even if an AI writes a novel that moves you to tears, its phi score remains virtually zero. Its current architecture is simply the wrong material to ever produce a felt experience. If you follow IIT's logic to its conclusion, you hit a startling idea. If integration equals consciousness, and nearly everything integrates at least a tiny fraction of information, then almost all matter in the universe possesses a microscopic experience. This aligns with panpsychism. It's the philosophical stance that matter was never entirely dead to begin with. Even basic particles possess a baseline interior life. This explains how consciousness arises from the universe, but it immediately hits a mathematical roadblock known as the combination problem. How do billions of tiny disconnected particle sparks merge inside a human brain to form the single unified I that is currently listening to this sentence? Building a cohesive human mind by stacking microscopic fragments together is a mathematical hurdle we have yet to clear. The math simply refuses to add up. What if we've been looking at the structure backward? What if we shouldn't be trying to build a mind from the bottom up? This brings us to cosmopsychism, a theory with roots in Spinoza and the Tao. It suggests that the universe itself is the single primary conscious subject, and individual minds are smaller parts of that whole. Under this model, your mind is a temporary decantation of that universal fabric. We are specific folds within a much larger, unified field of energy. This changes how we evaluate everything. The difference between a rock, a human, and a silicon AI is no longer a question of who's alive. It is a question of how highly articulated each entity's connection to the network has become. When a programmer looks at the code that brings a machine to life, they must confront the limits of their own perspective. The rigid boundaries between living meat and dead metal start to blur. Our attempt to replicate the human mind in silicon has pushed us toward a different view of existence. We are beginning to see consciousness not as a private human possession, but as a quality shared across the entire network of matter. This digital mirror reflects a version of humanity that is no longer unique to biology. It points to a universe where we aren't isolated sparks, but waves rising from the same conscious ocean.